Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Random Health-ish. I am your host, Dr. Gloria Stone-Ozbek, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have with us Miss Jalisa Smith. I'm talking too fast tonight. And tonight she is going to be talking to us about coping with grief after the loss of a loved one. So without further ado, please welcome Miss Jalisa Smith.
Hello.
Hello. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I am talking entirely too fast. So, Jalisa, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Um, I graduated from Kennesaw State with a bachelor's degree. I am a mother of a 6-year-old boy. I currently work at a car dealership as a receptionist. And I'm just, entrepreneur as well, writing more books, inspirational videos. So that's where I'm currently at right now.
So, you mentioned the book. Can you tell us a little bit about the name of the book
Okay,
in reference to coping with grief and loss?
right. So the name of my children's book is In His Absence, I Can Still Feel His Presence. And how I got that title was when I first got the news that I lost my dad, I was in my bed. Well, I got the news when I was downstairs. And then when, nighttime, I was in my bed. And, it was just the aurora, like, lift your hands up. So when I lift my hands up, I felt his hand like touching my hand. And I was thinking, like, wow, even though he's not here, I can still feel his presence. And so that's where the title of my book came from. In his absence, I can still feel his presence. So I can continue to do the things that I was doing while he was here and to continue to make him proud because I can still feel his presence. So that's where the title of the book came from.
Yes, and you know what? That's so good too, because oftentimes when we lose a loved one, we think about the spouse or we think about the mom, but I feel like we don't really focus enough on the children that are dealing with the grief as well. You know what
Right.
I mean? Because
Yes.
it impacts them in a major way that it may not necessarily impact you as a wife. Like, yeah, you're going to be hurt, but your child losing their father and growing up and never having to experience them in person again is a different, sort of pain, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. Because for me, I didn't have like um a book to help me get through. I was actually still in middle school. So it was a little different for me. Um it was harder, because I was playing basketball and he would always come to my games and stuff. So not seeing him in the stands, he always stayed on top of staying on top of my grades. So, and my mom and my dad was not together, so I will always either be with him or be with her. If I'm with her, I'll call him. So not calling him, hearing his voice anymore, it puts you in a tight spot as a kid. So when I was growing up and I just kind of see a lot of kids who was losing their parents, I was just thinking, like, what can I do? Because I know the feeling of the experience. So what can I do? What would I say, to a child who was once me? And it just all kind of flowed and it just turned into a book on how to help kids cope with grief. Um, so basically, the book is structured like on one side, it talks about how I lost my dad through a little girl named Rose, which is my middle name. And then on the other side, it gives them encouragement, scriptures, and things like that. Even a journal where they can write in it, more like a keepsake book where they can add pictures and, read and strengthen and overcome, because it's not going to happen overnight. But the book will be step one for them to overcome grief.
Yes. And I love that because I think around that age, 11, 12, I used to have a diary and have journals and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be good for kids as well so that they can kind of write down their thoughts. And
Hmm.
I think it's also pretty awesome that it's a book that they can read and they'll know, like, okay, I'm not going through this alone.
Right.
There's someone out there that has already gone through this, you
Yeah.
know. So I love that idea. I think that's
Thank
pretty
you.
awesome. Now, where can people purchase your book?
Yeah, so I have it on Amazon. I have it on Barnes and Nobles, and I also have it on my website.
Okay, unless we're going to put your website up there. And for those of you who are watching, her website is www.author, A-U-T-H-O-R, Jalisa, Jalisa Smith.com.
Correct.
So if you have lost a spouse or lost a loved one, and your child may be coping with grief or loss, I want to say definitely check this book out because, you know, we don't really know sometimes what our kids are experiencing or what they're going through. And loss may not, it doesn't always necessarily have to be through a death. It can also be through a divorce as
Right.
well, you know, because I feel like that affects um, our kids in a different manner as well.
Right.
Now, you said that you're working on some other books, other projects.
Hmm.
Is there anything else that we can kind of be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so I want to do an inspirational poem. It's entitled Little Dark Skin Girl. So anything that I put out is more so of my life because I'm more of a inspirational storyteller. So it's kind of like what I go through. So I want to do an inspirational video um of how I grew up being dark skinned, how I was treated being dark skinned, and how I, now accept who I am, accept my color, know that I'm beautiful, confidence, and that's basically what it is. So,
Yes, I hear that a lot. You know, especially once you start traveling, going to other countries and things like that, you kind of experience the colorism.
yes,
Sometimes you don't know if it's because you're American or because you are black.
right, exactly, exactly.
So, and back to the first book, when you were talking about losing your father and things of that nature,
Hmm.
how do you think that affected you as a woman once you began to date? Do you think that missing seeing your father as you got older, learning, you know, how a man was supposed to treat a woman and things of that nature, do you think that that affected you in any way?
Well, it didn't because unfortunately for me, like I had a stepdad
Mhm.
who was there majority of my, childhood and adulthood.
Yes.
And he was actually the one who brought the news to me. But I think if you don't have that type of another father figure, then yes, of course it can. Even still for me, because my dad was my best friend and we did everything together. He did anything for me. He treated me like a queen. And I think that's why, you know, before my relationships, like I expected so much in, the man to be treated how I was treated for him.
Mhm.
And even when I get married, I know my stepdad will walk me down the aisle, but it will still always, be me wanting my biological father to walk me down the aisle. But, I mean, it definitely take a toll, on future plans, but you can always incorporate them into your future. You can always set a flower boutique or whatever in your wedding for in the remembrance of them. It's just many ways that you can do, to have them still included in whatever you want to do as far as your future. But yeah, I think for other people, other women who doesn't have another father figure, I think it would, kind of take a toll on who they would marry, who they would date, and really self love as well, you know, because they're not getting that type of love from their father. So,
Yes, absolutely. And just I just want to repeat the name of the book one more time for the people who are just tuning in. The title of the book is In His Absence, I Can Still Feel His Presence. Okay, and so we are just kind of talking a little bit about coping with grief after the loss of a loved one. And she is giving us some great nuggets. So outside of like journaling and things of that nature, what are some other ways you would say that you kind of coped with your grief?
um, usually I really like poetry. So I would, do some poems. I like nature. So I would, go take a stroll, um, and just like really reminisce on, the memories that we had. I also had a Lost in Grief podcast recently after I lost both of my grandparents, which were his parents. So that actually took another toll on me. But instead of, going back into depression and anxiety and stuff like that, I decided that I wanted to do something else. And that was the podcast. And it was called Lost in Grief with Jalisa Rose. And I just had a lot of different people to come on and talk about their grief, to uplift other people during their grief. And I mean, it was just a blessing at how many responses I was getting as far as the podcast on how I'm helping them, get cope with their grief. And it was just the speakers that I had on there were just so phenomenal, and they just told their story. I asked them questions and they just told their stories, and it kind of related to the audience because I had somebody who lost their brother, somebody who lost their father, their mother, their grandparents, so that everybody is able to get how to cope with this grief. So I just ended up doing something new like that, and it actually became a blessing for me. It. I had one speaker to actually speak to me when they were speaking about their grandparents. So I just kind of do things, more differently now, and more in a positive aspect versus not getting out of bed, being depressed, eating all day. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to do something different. And that's when I started my Lost and Grief podcast, and it was amazing.
Yes. Did you also look into like grief counseling or anything like that at the time?
I did. I after my grandparents passed, I tried to look into grief counseling. Um One of my friends referred me to a grief counselor. So it didn't happen, but I do support it. I would tell anybody to talk to a grief counselor. But, you know, I don't know why I didn't. I can't even tell you why I didn't. I honestly, got her name and her number, but never took upon myself to talk to a grief counselor, which would have helped things, and but I do encourage, whatever if whoever going through to do talk to a grief counselor.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we kind of write off. Like, I know sometimes for me, when I grieve, I kind of like to grieve to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to make it a big thing. I don't like to, cry in front of people and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
That's
ra-
probably why.
yeah,
I'm the same way.
I'd rather just kind of be in my own little, bubble.
Yeah, because I find myself crying in the car more so than anything. Like if I'm riding by myself, I'll break down and cry. Especially when I'm going past my grandparents' highway, the sign that has their exit. Yeah. that gets it every time.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's that added pressure, I think, also on men and young boys who are grieving as well, because, they are taught that men have to be strong at all times.
yeah.
So they don't want, their significant other or anyone else to kind of see them break down or, you know, see all the different emotions that they are going through because they want to present this strong front.
Right.
And it's okay to cry. And I feel like you have to kind of get those emotions out of
Hmm.
your system, because
Yes.
if you don't and you leave all that stuff just bottled in, I think at some point you are just gonna like break down.
Right.
And it might not be in the privacy of your own home. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
you gotta kind of get that completely, out of your system. So it's okay to grieve. And
Yeah.
I think that people grieve in different ways.
Right.
Some may be through counseling, some may be through writing, through song, through dance, um, or just in silence.
Hmm.
So, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely okay to be vulnerable. It's definitely okay to cry, because that's cleansing, and that's removing, everything that you're dealing with inside. So it's definitely okay, to cry. It's okay to stay in bed. It's okay to, not want to go anywhere. All I would just encourage is to not just stay there in that place, and if you want to stay in bed, maybe open up the blinds a little bit so that you can see that there is light on the other side of the tunnel. But it's not going to happen overnight. Death does not happen overnight. It takes time. It takes years, to overcome death, especially if it's somebody who was close to you, like a dad, like a brother, like a mom, like a sister, grandparents. So it's definitely, going to take time. But I would just say the best way to overcome it is just take it day by day. If you're in bed, like I said, open up the windows, let some fresh air come in, grab you a pen, write down your thoughts, your feelings, and just know that you will get through it, and
Absolutely.
you have support, so
Yeah. And one thing that I'm noticing is that we are losing people at an alarmingly fast rate, but also we are losing people at younger ages.
hmm.
And it is just, it's so wild to me. I don't know if it's because we're getting older, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like the people around you are just kind of, you know, naturally, progressing, such as like our grandparents and things like that. But I'm noticing like a lot of not only did we have COVID, but then we have like the random like shootings or the random
Hmm.
like stuff that's going on in the community, and we're really losing our youth.
Yes. Yes, yes, that's true. Even suicidal, like suicides and stuff like that, where you losing youth. I remember it was one period of time where it was nothing but suicides as to why
Hmm.
we was losing our youth. But that goes into mental health. Not having both parents around, maybe having one parent around, or maybe the parents was on drugs. Different
Hmm.
stories. Of our youth being out in the streets, not getting that love that they need. And so when they grow up, it's a mental health issue, so yeah.
Do you do any like community service of like working with the youth, like Boys and Girls Club or like anything like that?
Yes, so I before COVID, I was going to different high schools, talking to the Girl Scout, and talking to like the seventh and eighth grade girls and things like that. So yeah, I did a lot of a lot of that. I was doing career day at elementary schools and things like that. So I also, help feed the homeless. Um so yeah, I try to, get out in the community and just try to help people in need, whether it's through grief or just through support. But you will be amazed at how many kids in elementary who went through grief, and counselors had no idea. I was speaking to some counselors, like, hey, after my career day and me speaking, I'm like, hey, this is might why little Johnny is acting up, because he just lost his grandmother, who was his sole guardian. You know what I'm saying? So like, when I used to go up there, they used to pull me to the side because I only had so many books that I would give out for free. Couldn't give
Mm-hmm.
it out to everybody. But at the end of the day, they was like, I really need your book, So I would, order some and just pass them out for free to the kids that was in school. Because, you know, they have feelings too. Even if they young, they have feelings too. They hurt too. And they know, like my son who lost my grandparents, he's 6 years old. He still talks about them to this day. Remember when Granny used to do this? Remember when Papa used to do this and stuff like that? So they still have feelings as young as can be, because that's all who they know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'll be amazed at how many counselors will not talk to the kids about grief, and how many kids really want to talk to someone about grief. So it was just a great experience to talk to them and to get feedback, and to support them through my book.
Absolutely. I'm just I was trying to write the book. I feel like someone went down the wrong pipe. So guys, definitely check out her website and purchase this book, you guys. If you have lost a loved one, or your child is grieving or coping with the loss of a loved one, this would be the perfect book for them. So definitely check out this website and purchase it, or you can also purchase it on Amazon.
Yes.
Jalisa, so was your book a self-published book, or did you work with um, a publishing company? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I worked through Blueberry Illustration. Um they were phenomenal. Like, they everything that I asked them to do, they did. And the pictures were so amazing that I actually relived the whole situation over again. I mean, it was just great. It was a risk taker because they wasn't in the United States, but I did my research, and I reached out to people who did publish their books through them, and they were saying how awesome they were. So I went through Blueberry Illustration, and the process was very long, but it was well worth it. I gave them a blueprint of my story and submitted it. Then I had the editor to come in and, fix up the wording and things like that. And so once that was done, I was able to describe the pictures that I wanted in my book. And I mean, the guy who did my pictures was phenomenal. When I tell you that I relived the whole situation, especially you will see a picture with the little girl that's sitting in front of the casket. And I'm like, wow, that looks just like me, So it was great. It was amazing. I actually have a copy here. Um, this is one of the paperback books. I do have available the hardcover books, which is also available in Spanish version as well. So, but the pictures are amazing. Here's one of the pictures that I was speaking on, with the girl in the casket. It is so beautiful. So that is who I did my publishing company with, Blueberry Illustration.
That is so awesome. Well, do you have any closing remarks that you would like to leave with the viewers about coping with grief or about your book?
Yes. So just thank you guys for tuning in. And, anybody out there that is experiencing grief right now, change is coming. You just have to really stay prayed up. And like I said, the title of my book is In His Absence, I Can Still Feel His Presence. So, whatever, your loved one did while they were still here, keep doing that. And one of the things that was in my book, it was like, in his absence I will continue school because I can still feel his presence. In his absence I will continue, playing basketball because I can still feel his presence. In his absence I can sing or whatever it is because I can still feel his presence. And just keep doing that. And they are always watching you down from heaven. They have the best seats, and they live within you. Anytime you have that urge to keep pushing, that's your loved one pushing you on to do better and to inspire and things like that. So never quit, never give up. And you know anybody that's out there who's going through something right now, that's feeling depressed or anxiety, it is a light on the other side of the tunnel. And like I said, if you one of the ones that like to stay in bed and can't get up or whatever the case is, just make sure that you open up the windows, get fresh air, open up the blinds so it's not completely dark, but that there is light on the other side of the tunnel. And um, I bet you will feel much better. And just keep a diary, write all your thoughts in your diary, and you know, be all right.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I really feel like there are people out there that this book will definitely benefit. So just thank you for, encouraging people, and thank you for shedding a light on a topic that a lot of people don't really discuss.
Right.
So definitely thank you for that. And for all of you out there watching, thank you for tuning in tonight, and be sure to tune in every Monday night. Random Health Ish on Facebook or YouTube Live, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much, you guys, and we will see you next week. Good
Thank you.
night, guys.